Good morning, everyone. I want to start by thanking each of you for being here on today. To all members of the cabinet who are present, thank you. To Ryan Boyer, Chair of the Parker Transition, Chair of the Mayor's Business Roundtables for the City of Philadelphia. Thank you, Ryan, for being here. I'm here on today to talk about my plans to create a more visible and accessible government, a city government that our residents can see, touch, and feel. Philadelphia, I've been your mayor for 6 months and 9 days. I hope it's been evident in the work that you've seen take place in neighborhoods across this city. I hope that is evidence to you that I am trying to go to war. I am at war. I'm at war, Philadelphia, with the status quo here in the city of Philadelphia. Trying to use every tool possible to do the best I can with what I have as your mayor to make good on the commitment that I made to each of you when I asked you to help me on this journey. The promise specifically was that if you gave me the opportunity to lead this city, that I would do the best that I could to make it the safest, cleanest, greenest big city in the nation with access to economic opportunity for all. That I would try to provide you with a government in action where you could actually see, touch, and feel your tax dollars at work in the neighborhoods in which you live, and in a way where you could see economic opportunity literally thrive in the city so that we could get access to the revenue that we needed to address all of the complex problems that we are facing, which we know are possible to tackle if we govern accordingly. With that being said, I made a decision that I stand by firmly. And that is in order to make good on that promise to you that I needed Philadelphia's municipal workforce to return to office to provide valuable supports and services to you, the taxpayers of the city of Philadelphia. I need to thank, and this is important, Philadelphia, that you hear this, and it's extremely important to me. I need to thank because I can't make good on my promise to you without the hard work of the men and women who keep the city of Philadelphia moving. The first thing you realize when you go to the second floor right here in City Hall and you sit in that chair, you understand that yes, you may be the mayor, but you can't make good on any commitment to deliver on services here in our city without the men and women who go to work every day in order to make it happen. With that being said, I need to publicly thank for the record our sanitation workers, our police officers, our firefighters, our correctional officers, the water department, our social workers, our parks and recreation workers, and the folks over at licenses and inspections. Why? Because these individuals have never had the ability to change the location of their work. And they worked through a global pandemic and made great personal sacrifices for the city. And there are many others too. And I want you to know that I thank them all. I thank each of you. Thank you. I need to affirm that I am grateful to them, and I thank them in an effort to make good on that promise to you. I need us all right now to make a sacrifice for our city. And I want them to know, and I want you, Philadelphia, to know that this decision that I made, I didn't come to it lightly. We made it through that global pandemic with God's grace and mercy. We got here because the hard work that the men and women who represent our city did when it was tough. We wouldn't be here without them. We did not say, and this is important, okay, Cherelle, you got elected. Mayor, you got elected and you got sworn in on January the 2nd. Didn't say, okay, I'm here today. Tomorrow you have to return to work. Change your location. But when we made this decision, we made it, and we've given 8 weeks for people to make adjustments in their lives, our very valuable workforce. I don't apologize for being a pro-worker mayor. The reason why I'm a pro-worker mayor is because I started in this building and worked here for 15 years. I am the help. I was the worker. 5 years intern, 10 years senior staffer, doing constituent services. It's how I learned to deliver high quality public services to the people of the city of Philadelphia. So I don't apologize for being a pro-worker mayor. That's who I am. It's been a valuable tool to bring people to the working and middle class in our great city and across this nation. That's what being a municipal worker means to me. I'm proud to say to the people of the city of Philadelphia that track record that you've heard me talk about of being a pro-worker mayor, I want you to know I am no Johnny-come-lately, and particularly when it comes to our unionized workforce. I have what young people would call receipts. That means from my time as a staffer in this building to the work I did in the legislative branch, to what I advocated for as a member of the City Council of Philadelphia. I don't stand before you just because I'm the mayor to say I'm pro-worker. The history affirms that work. I know, and I've heard from a whole lot of people when I made my decision regarding the return to office, the change in the location of where work would take place, that there were some people who were not going to be happy about the decision that I made. But I want you, Philadelphia, to know that when you're trying to do what I'm trying to do, which is change the status quo for our expectations here in the city of Philadelphia, when you're trying to lead and raise the quality and the delivery, change how we deliver city services in the city of Philadelphia, it can be a challenge, but I won't get weary. And I am not going to abandon the promise that I made to you. There's also been a lot of, and this is really how and why we got here today. There's been a lot of talk, Philadelphia, from some in the media about Philadelphia's on-site and remote work policy. And if you were Philadelphia to believe what you read, you might think that we are the only city in the country implementing a policy to bring our workforce back in the office or on site. But the one city that you haven't read much about is Washington, D.C. Huge hats off to a dynamic mayor who I've been watching, who I believe is a great teacher. But according to news stories from our nation's capital, I want you to hear this because you haven't read this. Remote work has tanked DC's growth and it's causing a budget nightmare. That's an actual headline from Axios News in an April story. The story went on to describe modest revenue growth in Washington below the rate of inflation, and city financial officials attributed the downturn to remote work's drain on DC's downtown economy. It all produced ultimately a difficult budget that led the DC government to raise taxes this year, listen, just to balance the budget. I'm not talking about to raise a tax to invest in creating more housing. I'm not talking about raise a tax because there's a demand for a specific service that's not included in the city's budget. DC raised taxes just to balance its budget. I'm telling you that story not to revel in any way, but to say that to the people here in the city of Philadelphia, that there are other sides to this story of working from home versus on-site, in-person work for our municipal workforce. Now, for my administration, I believe that employee presence at the workplace allows for more personal and productive interactions, facilitates communication, and promotes social connections along with collaboration, innovation, inclusion, and belonging. We are seeking to establish a model of how the municipal workplace can function well and be transparent and accountable to you, the people we serve. We also want to set a standard for how the city's economy and other corporate, nonprofit, and other government entities return to the office in efforts to make a more vibrant Philadelphia. That's the ultimate goal. That's the ultimate result that we are trying to achieve. How and why? What do you believe? I believe that a more consistent in-office presence will result in work environments, listen, where equal employment opportunity and diversity, equity, and inclusion, that they are truly realized. And I understand that this transition would require some adjustment. I also have committed to, and this is important for me to affirm to you, because if you only believed what you read, you wouldn't know this. I have committed to an ongoing review and consideration of supports, benefits, and resources for employees, regardless of where work is performed, to realize the promise of our city as what we call an employer of choice. I will continue, and this is part of why I said to my team, no, I'm not going to allow anyone to control the narrative about my decision making. The people gave me the honor and the privilege to lead this city. And whenever there is a decision that I make as mayor of the city of Philadelphia, I am not going to be afraid to publicly stand up and communicate directly with you, residents, taxpayers of the city of Philadelphia, to explain the methodology and the rationale and reasoning behind my decision making. Not going to change that. I will continue to demand tangible and intangible investments in our workforce, because our city workers are the only way Philadelphia becomes that safest, cleanest, greenest big city in America, with access to economic opportunity for all. And I want to thank each of you for being here. Just a few facts that I want to make sure that I get on the record, and you've heard me mention these before. In 2023, Philadelphia, you should know, approximately 80% of the city's workforce worked fully on site. 80% of the city's workforce worked fully on site. Of the remaining 20%, city employees worked approximately 31 to 75 hours per pay. That means every 2 weeks on site. And here is a sampling, because this is important for you to know too, because you wouldn't know based on what's out there and what you may have read about my decision. Let me be specific about the who's, the workforce that's already back in the office and or on site. Police officers, firefighters, workers in the Department of Licenses and Inspections, the Water Department, Sanitation and the Streets Department, the Office of Homeless Services, our social workers, prisons, correctional officers, fleet services, and our parks and recreation center employees. With that being said, I want to take some questions.
But Mayor, it's kind of out of your hands because a judge tomorrow is going to hear arguments and rule on whether or not there's an injunction against.
My job as mayor of the city of Philadelphia, and I have every right to communicate directly with you, the people of the city of Philadelphia, to tell you about how and why I arrived at the decision I arrived at regarding this issue of municipal workers and the change in the location of work. Yes.
What will you do if they don't come back? If they just decide they're going to defy you and the judge orders them?
Right now, we wanted to make sure, Jeff, that the people of the city of Philadelphia understood our decision-making and why we made this decision. We will not comment on any litigation or any court proceedings. That's not the purpose of why we're here on today. But I did, again, want to say to the people of this city, nothing about my standing has changed. We're using every tool in the toolbox to make sure that you can see your tax dollars at work in your neighborhood, and that you can see that we are literally trying to change how we deliver city services in the city of Philadelphia so that you can actually see the results of the hard work and determination of the city workforce, but you can actually see it unfold in the neighborhoods where you live, in neighborhoods where you shop.
Do you commit to abiding by and respecting whatever decision the court comes to?
We are not here today to comment on any litigation or any court proceedings. Today's purpose was to just make sure that I, as mayor of this city, communicated directly with the people of our city about my decision making. I appreciate it. You wanted to follow up? Yes.
Economic argument, DC 47 says that workers being at home revitalizes neighborhood businesses because that's where they spend their lunch dollars or whatever.
Well, listen, I can tell you this. Everyone has a right to their opinion. In Philadelphia, I don't want you to think that, first when, going out on the trail and taking a major risk with that agenda, that vision for the city that I had, and then working extremely hard to earn your support in order to get here. I don't want you to think that your mayor was naive enough to think that there would be decisions that I would have to make that would be tough decisions that everybody would be supportive of and everybody would be happy about. That's a part of leadership. Leadership sometimes requires that you make decisions that everyone, is not happy about or everyone doesn't agree with. But you gave me an opportunity to lead this city, and I want you to know I'm going to do the best that I can with what I have to deliver for you, and I don't apologize. I don't apologize about that to anyone. Sean?
You brought up Washington, D.C. and raised their efforts. I believe they cut down to 4 days in person and 1 day teleworking.
You heard me reference and send deep admiration to the mayor because I know how tough it is now sitting in this seat. And when you look at the results, when you look at the economic impact that it has had on DC's overall economic stability, Washington, D.C. government's proper, and the fact that they had to raise taxes. They had to raise taxes just to balance the budget. Philadelphia, when and if I have the and did what? And laid workers off. Raised taxes to balance the budget and laid workers off. I do not, and am trying not, and won't be. We want to grow our municipal workforce. We need to strengthen it. It is an economic driver. We don't want to be in a position to do that. We don't, but again, you know, so I'm going to give you an example. Let's just say hypothetically, and Ryan Boyd's probably going to be smiling when you hear me say this, and thank you, Mark, from 98 for being here. If we had an opportunity to do something significant like, let's say we're working to make good on having 30,000 units of housing. 30,000 units of housing in the city of Philadelphia. Building of new, preservation of existing, repairing existing, and then we have to come up with a comprehensive plan of how we're going to generate the revenue to have those 30,000 units to make good on that commitment. Philadelphia, I'll be going door to door and community by community to make the case to you about why we would have to make a tough decision regarding taxes to make good on that 30,000 promise when it comes to housing. But to say that we have to raise taxes in order to balance a budget and then lay municipal workers off, that's why I mentioned it, Sean. When I mentioned it to say I'm not reveling in any challenges that any other city is having, but I needed to give another example about what has occurred in a nearby city, because if people came to a conclusion about where they would land on this issue based on only the information that was readily available, it's skewed. They don't talk about the other side, the negative economic consequences that we've seen others have to endure with. So today I needed to speak directly to the people of Philadelphia and say, here are some other examples. Jeff?
Mayor, do you see a similar economic hit to the city based on these workers being home in the same way you've suggested it's happening in D.C.? Do you see the loss here?
Let me say this to you. Not only do I not see it here, but there is nothing more important than Philadelphia's economic health and stability, right? And our economic health and stability, that's number one. That's number one. And Philadelphia, you should know this. We received an upgrade to our credit rating by Fitch. Is it A+ where we are right now? An increase. So an increase to our credit rating from Fitch, one of the most prominent rating agencies, in the world, and we're now at an A+. And for people at home who are saying, okay, credit rating, what does this mean? I want you to think about what would happen if Experian and Equifax, when they increase our credit rating, that means whenever we have to go borrow, the interest rate is lower. So Philadelphia is on sound fiscal and economic footing right here, and we want to continue to grow and strengthen our economic standing. So that's why you heard me sort of juxtapose what we see happening in another place, because again, if you only read about what you heard regarding this issue recently, it wouldn't totally be fully accurate. Was that diplomatic? Okay.
Yes. You ran, and we're proud of the union support that you had when you ran for this office. Yes. And I wonder, how does it feel to you in this moment to have city workers, union workers, say, no, we disagree with you, and we're even going to take you to court?
Well, again, we're not commenting on anything specifically associated with court proceedings and or litigation you're talking about. Listen, when you come from the humble beginnings that I am a product of and literally experience firsthand what it's like when someone gets access to an economic opportunity like that provided by being a part of the municipal workforce, I wouldn't care who agreed to disagree with a decision. I am always going to lift our municipal workforce up because I know the power and the influence it can have in changing the life of Philadelphians who are fortunate when they can and if they can become a member of the municipal workforce. So nothing about this exchange, agreeing to disagree, nothing about this makes me feel any kind of way, right? About this difference of opinion. Union leadership, they have to represent their members. And listen, I understand and know what that's like when you have to represent a perspective. And they don't have to apologize for it. But what I'm responsible for is communicating to the constituents, just like they were elected by a constituency and they represent a constituency. I'm elected and represented of a constituency as well. And that's to you, the people of the city of Philadelphia. And I need and have a right to communicate directly with you about my decision making, why I've made it, and the impact I think it has on delivering high quality services to you. One more. Oh gosh. Let me just say that I will not discuss, even though I know it may become standard today, people have recordings and meetings that you have. I gotta, you gotta think about that. That wasn't the goal this week. I'm not gonna talk about who I met with and who I didn't meet with. This is what it has to be, 1,001% clear. I support Philadelphia's municipal workforce. I am a pro-worker, pro-union, pro-labor mayor. I am no Johnny-come-lately to supporting organized labor, and I have a track record to affirm it. And this decision in no way, shape, or form changes my commitment to and support of Philadelphia's municipal workforce at all. This has no impact on that because this city moves because they do, and I understand that, and I support them in the work that they do. One last question because he's been patient. Yes, yeah, he's been patient. Yes, sir.
80% of in person, you go over the 20% or not yet back?
I'm sorry?
You go over the 20% still not back full in person?
You know what? I will make sure that we forward a list. I did not ask my team to give me, just like I was able to run down the specific titles and of the folks who are here and have been working. I did not ask them to give me that list. I'll ask them to put that together so we can give it to you. Okay, this is really the last one right here. This is it. I didn't hear you.
Is there a fairness aspect to this? You think the police officers, sanitation workers have obviously been working the whole time. Is there a fairness aspect to this? Can you talk about that?
That's an interesting question because I think what you're describing to me, I think, is equity. Philadelphia, you've got a pretty strange mayor. Whenever I'm around powerful and influential people, especially like if I'm going to their place of business, when I walk into a building, if they come downstairs, I'm talking about since I've been your mayor, if they come downstairs to the lobby to come and greet me, and then we have to go up on the elevator, I look around to see who knows the name and who says hello to the janitor, to the receptionist at the desk. I know it seems pretty weird, but to me, it's a true. It tells you. Like somebody is saying, "Oh wow, that is pretty weird," but no, just watch it. I'm telling you, it tells you a great deal about who people are when they see everyone, especially those who are, just not in the higher echelon of the food chain when it comes to work. So I don't care what you do for the city of Philadelphia. I don't care. Remember, my grandmother was a domestic worker And she didn't clean buildings, she cleaned the houses of wealthy people, right? So that she can give me, her granddaughter, access to the opportunity so that I could lead, to make sure that people situated like her had access to economic opportunity as well. So does equity play a part? Is that something that's come across my mind? Absolutely, you're Johnny on the spot. Equity has been a part of it. I want to thank you all so very much for coming here today. Thank you for your leadership, and I really do look forward to talking to you again soon. I think now, I shouldn't have Camille Duchesset brought up 30,000 because Ryan Boyer and Mark are probably going to try to beat me over the head and ask me for the plans right now. We're working on it, y'all. We're working on it, okay? Thank you all so very much.